Beep, 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 beep. You know what that is? That's the sound of the world's biggest truck backing the F up. 4 years ago, this channel made over 200 videos talking about the situation in Venezuela, how it was not what the government was telling you, and I was largely vilified for it, even by this platform. The vast majority of the videos got demonetized as quote-unquote misinformation. Well, guess what? Everything has changed in one day. Now, some of you are probably asking, what's changed about Venezuela? Socialism causes starvation. Don't you know that? It's always been the case, no matter how far back in history you go. Really? Really? 6 March 2022, U.S. officials travel to Venezuela, a Russian ally, for talks. But why? But why? The trip, the highest level U.S. visit to Venezuela in years, comes as part of a U.S. effort to isolate Russian President Vladimir Putin. Washington, D.C., USA, senior U.S. officials traveled to Venezuela on Saturday, March 5 for talks with President Nicolas Maduro. Wait a minute, who? President Nicolas Maduro's government? President Nicolas Maduro's government? I'm sorry. I thought random guy named Juan was president. I thought Pharaoh had spoken. And Juan Guaido was the duly elected president of Venezuela. Even Trump said it in his 2020 State of the Union. Here is the video for it. And I'll give you the link. Here are his words. Donald Trump, 2020. Mr. President, speaking to Juan Guaido, please take this message back to your homeland. All Americans are united with the Venezuelan people in their righteous struggle for freedom. He also said that Guaido is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela. Really? And if you think this is just a one-off, this is Rappler.com. This is Fox. Senior U.S. officials travel to South America as some suggest Venezuelan oil imports could replace those from Russia. And once again, they echo this. They are traveling there to meet with President Nicolas Maduro. They're not traveling there to meet with a random guy named Juan. I didn't think Nicolas Maduro was the legitimately elected president of Venezuela, even though he won 2 legitimate elections, and Juan Guaido never won any election. The only thing he was ever elected to was the National Assembly with only 26% of the vote. Why only 26? Because there were 12 guys or something like that running for the position. For those of you who don't remember this, I think it's very telling about the coup that was guaranteed to work. They were going to unite the military and overthrow Venezuela. Funny how that didn't work out. And funny how when the U.S. sent paramilitary down there, that didn't work out. And for those of you who think it's, well, Joe Biden's a socialist and that's why he's recognizing the sanctions on Nicolas Maduro began under Obama. They're trying to rewrite history and say that it was Trump. It wasn't Trump. Trump put his foot on the accelerator of the sanctions. He was totally unified with Obama in this particular vein of thought. 18 December 2014, Obama signs U.S. sanctions law on Venezuelan officials. I'll bet random guy named Juan is feeling very isolated right now. I'll bet he's sad because, you see, he wasn't even the first choice. He wasn't even the first guy named Juan that they chose. You see, the first guy they chose was a guy named Juan Requesens to put forth their illegitimate overthrow of the Venezuelan government based on evil, terrible, horrible socialism. But they had a problem with Juan Requesens and their starving Venezuelan story. Juan Requesens was about 6'1", about 420 pounds. The visuals kind of argued with their story of socialism always causes starvation. Socialism always... Completely wrong. So they had to find a skinnier guy. And speaking of skinnier guys, and one of these videos that I did way back 13 January 2018, over 4 years ago, one of their fake stories that is now proven true, by the way, was this, oh, they were so hungry they had to go randomly out into fields and find cows and beat them with sticks and rocks and just to feed their family. Really? See, I showed a picture that they tried to pass off as one of these events where it shows what I refer to as Love Handles Lopez right here. And then some other guy, a little bit skinnier, but apparently strong enough to throw what looks like at least 100 pounds of meat up over his shoulder and just go ambling off wearing sandals. Guys, I'm telling you right now, most Americans, if they went 3-4 days without food, there ain't no way they are picking up 100-pound hock off of a cow, throwing it over their shoulder and just walking off into the sunset. After 3 or 4 days without food, your legs are like giant sandbags just walking around normally. And those of you who think Nicolas Maduro was such a bad guy, or is such a bad guy, they said that he went after his opponents. Yeah, you see, there's laws in Venezuela that say you can't run for president while you are actively conspiring to kill the current one. You see, that doesn't make you a dictator. That makes you a person in charge. You can't actively be conspiring, which is what Juan Requesens and Juan Guaido were doing, to overthrow and or assassinate the current president, and then simultaneously legally run for president at the same time. But there's part of the story that they never showed North Americans. See this right here? This is Juan Guaido. See what's in his left hand here? It is the Constitution of Venezuela that was written by Hugo Chavez. They rewrote it. And it says, he's trying to cover it with his fingers, it says, República Bolivariana, the Bolivarian Socialist Republic. You see, he had to go in front of Venezuelan cameras and swear to the Venezuelan people that if they allowed him to be president, he would never do away with socialism as codified in their constitution. You see, the North American cameras wouldn't show this because then people would ask questions. You see, they have a very different, very, very different definition of socialism. I know I have people typing already down there. You see, they don't call socialism taxing the rich. You see that whole thing with AOC and her dress? That's not how they finance the government down there. They finance the government by the sale of oil. They don't say, okay, well, you super rich people, we're going to heavily tax you, take all of your money, and then we're going to give it away to all these people who don't want to work. You see, that's Washington, D.C. You see, Washington, D.C. loves that because it keeps people divided. But when you say, you know what, we're going to take the resources of a nation and we're going to use those resources, put them on the open market, sell them, and then use that to finance the government, ergo everyone being equal. You see, that's an idea that Washington, D.C. can't have you knowing about, North American. Because they have an agenda. They have oil on their mind. And that's exactly why they're going down there now, hat in hand, 4 years later, to President Nicolas Maduro. Maybe I should read it again. Senior U.S. officials traveled to Venezuela on Saturday, March 5 for talks with President Nicolas Maduro. Nowhere in here is a random guy named Juan even mentioned. This should tell you everything you need to know about who this guy is by his cordial relations with this guy. Yep, that's right. Justin Trudeau. Walking in lockstep. Now who's the bad guy? Who's the bad guy? A lot of questions people are going to ask if they know how to ask the right ones of the right people. There's an entire playlist. Venezuela, Latin America. Over 200 videos that lay this out, going all the way back actually into 2017. It's close to 5 years old. And a lot of these videos got taken down. A lot of them got demonetized. A lot of them were the source of a great deal of abuse that I suffered, saying the truth, speaking the truth. In this particular case, Abby Martin and I stand shoulder to shoulder. She nailed it too. She absolutely nailed this. And everybody and anybody who said anything different at the time was laughed at and called names. And, oh, it's not really about the oil. It's about America standing for liberty and freedom. And it was all a bunch of horse shit. They leveled crippling sanctions against Venezuela while sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Colombia, causing a massive schism between these two countries. They did everything they could to destroy the Bolivar. And you can see it now. You can see it now. Look what they're trying to do with Russia. That's exactly what they were doing to Venezuela. But they think everybody's going to have forgotten about it. Hey, this thing that you're doing to Russia, it sounds awful familiar. Didn't you try to destroy the economy of a South American nation using the exact same tactics? Why do those tactics apply to Russia, but with Venezuela, oh, it was evil, terrible, horrible socialism that caused their problem? Have you seen it yet? Even Fox has decided to change their wording. Ready? It's not dictator Nicolas Maduro anymore. It's authoritarian President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. Authoritarian president. You see, they've had to acknowledge random guy named Juan is no more. Why? That's the key. That's the question. Why? Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. They're going to give it away here pretty soon. God bless. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.